Hello for the 32nd Sunday in Ordinary Time, using that first reading mainly, the Book of Wisdom, chapter 6, verses 12 to 16. It's all about wisdom. What's wisdom? And I have something 21 years ago about wisdom, and then yesterday about wisdom, and what's wisdom in today's world? Well, first of all, 21 years ago. 21 years ago, I was asked to open the prayer for the Lexington Fayette County Urban Government meeting on I think it was a Thursday night, and just to open the prayer to set the tone the meeting. And so I did. And lo and behold, was I surprised, not with an amen, but with something else. In fact, the 2 days later, I found my prayer in the newspaper. Here's a little short article in the newspaper by this fellow here, and here's what happened. The bell rang or whatever to start the meeting, and this is what was in the newspaper 2 days later. A sign in front of the Columbia Christian Church in the Adair County, city of Columbia, a few months ago said, "As a man grows old, wiser, he talks less and says more." Talks less and says more. The Reverend Lawrence W. Hehman, rector of the Roman Catholic Cathedral of Christ the King 21 years ago, apparently had the same thought in mind when he opened last night's Urban County Government council meeting. And he said this, "Oh Lord, give us understanding to represent and respect our people well. Oh Lord, give us courage to make tough decisions. And especially, Lord, give us wisdom to know your will." Then came the line that drew a round of applause. "And oh Lord, give us the discipline to carry out this evening's meeting with brevity." And I got a round of applause, not an amen. And I found this 2 days later in the newspaper. But even more than that, about 2 weeks later, I get a call from my nephew, Matt, God rest his soul, was a traveling salesman in northern Kentucky and Ohio area. And he listened to the radio when he went from place to place, and he loved Paul Harvey. And he's driving there one morning, again, going to another place, listening to Paul Harvey. And Paul Harvey says, "Lexington, Kentucky, the pastor, Reverend Lawrence Hehman, said this at the council meeting." And then he reads the prayer that was printed in the newspaper, in the Lexington Herald Leader. And then he winds up, as usual, with, "And that was the rest of the story." That was pretty good. All because of wisdom. Lord, give us wisdom. Well, in today's world, and we need wisdom, and in the reading, especially that first reading from the Book of Wisdom, it talks about wisdom. And it mentions wisdom as a she. And let me just read that. I think it's like 9 times it's she or her. She is readily perceived by those who love her and found by those who seek her. She hastens to make herself known in anticipation of their desire. Whoever watches for her at dawn shall not be disappointed, for he shall find her sitting by the gate. For taking thought of wisdom is the perfection of prudence. And whoever for her sake keeps vigil shall quickly be freed from care, because she makes her own rounds, seeking those worthy of her, and graciously appears to them in these ways. Well, wisdom is personified, and really, wisdom personifies as she, not he. but really wisdom is God's will. And wisdom, true ultimate wisdom, is God himself. And then just in the morning of prayer, I was reading one of the Psalms again, and it says something similar to that. Psalm 9, 1 to 6 and 9 to 11. Give me wisdom, the attendant at your throne, and reject me not from anything, and reject me from among your children. For I am your servant, the son of your handmaid, a man weak and short-lived, lacking in comprehension of judgment and of the laws. Indeed, though one be perfect among the sons of men, if wisdom who comes from you be not with him, he shall be held in no esteem. So wisdom is really God's way. Wisdom is ultimately God himself. And wisdom is when we're influenced by God to live the way God made us to live. I find that interesting. But then I thought, when does it begin or how do you get it? And I thought of being a kid or a young children, babies, or I don't know. But mom and dad sort of need to discipline them with maybe a little paddling or hollering or whatever. And it says in the Psalms some 15 times, the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And I thought, well, maybe the fear of mom and dad of this little tyke, this little girl, this little boy, when they didn't do something right, at least in the mind of mom or dad, they gave them a little good paddling. And by golly, they feared them. And well, they burst into tears and cried and so forth. But sooner or later, mom and dad came around and they came around and they got going on there. And fear of mom and dad is the beginning of wisdom. And when they're 20s and 30s, many kids say that. Mom and dad were great. And I think the psalmist is constantly saying that. The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. That's good. Are you wise or are you otherwise? In the Gospels, there's 5 wise virgins and the 5 other unwise virgins. And Jesus is trying to say, God made you, God made for himself, he loves you. Listen to the will of God. And by golly, wisdom is listening to the will of God and to live or try to live the way God made us. Wisdom is something to be cherished and lived. Have a good day.